Hey guys, it's Kylie Davis here from Real Content Home Prezzo, and I hope you're staying safe in these crazy COVID-19 times. My presentation at Prop20 was on technology, trends and thriving, and it's never been more relevant than it is right now. So even though we can't give it to you personally, I hope you enjoy the new format and get the most out of this content. Stay safe, everyone.
So are you ready for the opportunity presented by the trends that we saw in that video? And how does watching that video make you feel? It doesn't. How does it make you feel? Do you have the whole deer in the headlights moment? Or do you do the whole kind of, I want to stick my head in the sand? Or do you get super excited about technology? Like, hands up, who wants to stick their head in the sand? Oh, it's a Melbourne audience. I forgot you guys don't participate. Okay, right, so here's what we're going to do. Hands up who loves technology and gets really excited by the tech that they see. Fantastic. Hands up if you are terrified by it and you really just wish it would go away and you could retire tomorrow so you don't have to worry about it, right? Hands up if you just sort of do this. If I stand really still, maybe it'll go away. Okay, you're probably in that middle section because statistically speaking, that is actually where most of us fit. There's a small proportion that are really going to go for it. There's a small proportion that are going to be terrified by it. Most of us kind of go, oh, I think I might just watch, see how this goes. But is this you not when you're in real estate? Most of us are using our mobile devices, and we've heard this lots of times today, so I'll skip through it. But we're using mobile for mobile searches in our own lives. Forget being a real estate agent at the moment. Just think about what you do when you're not real estating. We are using it to find ideas when we don't know how to do something. I learned how to change the windscreen wipers on my car on YouTube the other day because I got caught out and my husband is not great at that sort of stuff. We check our phones, depending on who you believe, between 47 to 80 times a day. That's what we do. Like, we're not making phone calls on them like we heard from Greg. We're actually just checking them to see what's going on Facebook or TikTok or whatever we're into. And we're doing 3.8 million searches every minute on Google. Like, that's trillions of searches every year. We're turning to Google. Google is the first thing. I mean, we have this sort of joke in our house, like, let's ask the Oracle if we can't remember something. And in fact, searches for Google, like find something near me, are up 500% in the last 12 months. 500%. Last night, Tara Christensen and she said, I just want some pasta. I want something really calming and, nice to eat, cuddly before we go on tomorrow. So we did, pasta near me and found a really great restaurant around the corner. We're seeing that power is shifting away from institutions. We saw this. Now, I've got a house on the south coast. My mum and dad live down at a place called Callaroo, which is in between Tathra and Bega. So a lot of Melburnians love to come, and ex-Melburnian, lots of Melburnians love to come up to Merimbula for the holidays. My parents spent like 3 weeks fire affected. We had 5 weeks where every week we were basically being evacuated out of our place on the coast. And what we saw over that terrible, terrible summer, Malakuta, really love that place. But what we saw over that terrible summer is this moving away, the power shifting from institutions. Our institutions let us down, and what all this technology in our pocket is doing is letting us, putting it back into the hands of individuals. We're seeing our millennials are moving away from the big banking institutions. I'm ex-media from the print side and worked a lot with the REA guys when I was back at News. We're seeing media completely disrupted, and how much has that been broken, right? And real estate isn't alone. Accounting, lawyers, conveyancing, everything is going through these same changes, so don't take it personally. And it's moving to individuals. When the institutions are letting us down, this mobile phone, this mobile computer in our pockets is giving us the power to do our stuff with our networks, with the people that we know. We saw Celeste Barber raise over 50 million just on the Facebook raise. She did another 10 million from pulling together that concert. Amazing stuff. When our governments let us down, we see that we step up ourselves, and we now have the power to do that through this mobile phone. What we're also seeing, however, back to real estate. Here's what's going on. 65% of the platforms that we're using to run our businesses are still on our desktops. So while the whole world has moved on and is now doing everything on their phone all the time, every single day, you guys, to get anything done, have to go back to the office. Or you have to ring someone back at the office. And this has been the case for a long time. Like, real estate actually hasn't changed. The fundamental way that we're transacting in real estate actually hasn't changed for, well, probably about 15, 20 years, except for the marketing side, where we're now starting to do a lot more digital marketing. But the transaction side hasn't really changed. But people's expectations have changed enormously. So let's be honest. Now, Brad Inman said this at the Inman conference in Vegas last year. So real estate's a shitty process. It's unchanged for the last 15 years. The way that we do real estate hasn't really changed. But the thing is that the prices have gone up. So if I'm spending that much money, what's the median house price in Melbourne at the moment? 700 and something? If I'm spending $700,000, I expect better service than I get from my barista for a $4.50 coffee, but often that doesn't happen. So let's be honest, why is it shitty? Wow, it's shitty because the processes are really opaque. While I can see where my pizza is at any given time when I order it on my Uber Eats, I have no idea where the most important financial transaction of my life is going unless the real estate agent calls me and tells me. We have centralized communication. Everything comes through the agent. Isn't that painful? Like, you guys have to return so many calls because there's just not the systems and structures supporting you behind it to make that happen. There are, you're not using them. With lots of legislations and contracts, so it's legally dangerous, so you have to get it right, so therefore there's a lot of fear around it. Lots of manual handoffs. Whenever there is someone in your office that you have to tell to do something or to move the information from one part of the process and go over to the other part of the computer or the other platform and put that same information into it where you're double handling, this is an enormously inefficient thing that goes on inside real estate every single minute of every single day. It's psychologically important. The people that we're transacting with, our buyers and our sellers and our tenants and our landlords, this is about home. So they're in a really heightened state of awareness when things are going on, and when you're that heightened, you start to get a little bit more stressed, a little bit more incapable of dealing with things when they don't go right. So lots of psychological stuff going on. Big dollars, high stakes, again. Enormous, we're being asked to spend now in real estate ridiculous amounts of money to buy a home. But the service levels haven't changed since 1985. We are really frightened of getting things wrong. I see this a lot in the property management space, but I can't change because if I change, I might not know how things work after I change them, and then things might go wrong and there's legal implications. So I think I'm better off just sticking with my desktop program from 2014. And there's lots of competing interests. So, you work for the seller. You have to be careful how you look after buyers because your job is to look after the seller. But then the buyers want a great experience. How do you actually deliver that? But here's what we see in real estate. Some of these stats might be a little bit confronting, so I encourage anyone who gets upset by them to reach out. But when you have a process that is desktop bound and inefficient, then you're requiring your people to do a lot more work to deliver to an improved service level. Does that make sense to everyone? Like if my customers are expecting better and better service, and the processes and the platforms that I've got in my business are not able to help my people do that easily, then I'm putting a lot of pressure on my people to deliver more and more. And we are seeing it, and we are at a crisis in real estate. Do you know And we know this because Real Time Agent went around with a stopwatch around a group of real estate agents and timed what they did during the sales process. You spend 4 hours for every property that you sell filling in paperwork. Hands up here who sells 150 properties a year. No one. You guys are all not selling anything. How many of you sell 100 properties a year? You guys are spending more than 70 days a year on paperwork. Now you might go, no, I'm not, because I've got a girl back at the office that handles that. Well, you are paying for someone to spend 76. If you're selling 150 properties a year, then you are spending 76 days a year just on filling in paperwork. So you don't need to. There's platforms out there now that can help you fix that. If you're in property management, property managers, Realm did some research into it. 20,000 emails are managed by a property manager a year. Those girls can't afford to go to the toilet. They come back to this tsunami of shit that's on their desk. It's hideous. And here's one of the most terrifying things inside real estate and extraordinarily sad things. We have processes and platforms that aren't helping us deliver to these new service expectations. And 13.4 people out of 100,000, these are statistics from that came out of some Victorian research, suicide every year. We have, as an industry, the worst suicide rates of any profession. We are worse than the police because of these expectations that we're putting on ourselves, that individually we need to fix the stuff because the processes behind us are broken. I don't think that's fair, and I think we need to come to this conclusion that the platform is burning. When you're on a burning platform, it's terrifying, but you've got to jump into the really deep water, right? So I think what we need to get our brains around is that the platform's burning. It's, staying where we are now, trying to do stuff the way we've always done it, is infinitely scarier than going forward, than looking at new ways that we can do it. So here's what I want to have a look at around. There are some new models coming out in the franchise space. So what we're seeing is companies in the US, Compass. Now Compass is basically a brand. It's actually got quite an Australian marketing aesthetic because their head of marketing is an Aussie, but an American franchise group that says everybody deserves to find their place in the world. And they're talking to agents as much as they are talking to people. They've built a tech platform. They claim to have built the world's first mobile platform that allows a real estate agent to do everything on their mobile phone, from listing all the way through to sale and the whole buyer's agent stuff as well. They're doing all of that on their mobile phone. Now, Compass had $1.5 billion in funding from a little thing called SoftBank. You might have heard of SoftBank. They invested in Alibaba. Those guys know shit, right? So what we're seeing and there's another one, EXP Realty. I'm a little bit out to sea on EXP Realty because they have a very American brand aesthetic. It doesn't quite resonate with us as Aussies, but it's white label. And what they do is they are completely tech. When you sign up to EXP Realty, you basically get given this whole tech stack, including 4 or 5 classes a day in a virtual classroom with people from around the globe. So when they teach you about digital marketing, they've got people from Google doing that. They've got people from Facebook in their digital academy. Now you have to get okay with this idea that you're going to have an avatar sitting there learning it, but you get to meet people in that thing. And when you are a principal or when you're a selling agent that signs up and brings your team over to EXP, what you get is you get commissioned not on profits, but on revenue across everything. And they also give you shares as well in the company as well. Now they're on the NASDAQ. Now the last couple of weeks, that might not have been such a great option, but over the longer term, it's extraordinarily powerful. And then the third one is a company called Side. Now, Side claims that they only, if as a consumer, you see a Side agent in your market, that is the brand to show that we only work with top performers. And their motto is, you matter more than your brokerage. So it's targeted straight to real estate agents. And they have a team of 42 that are building all of their tech. And only, I think, 2 of them actually have a real estate background. Everyone else has an engineering background in data and science. So they're huge, and this is what they're doing. Has anyone looked like I have at, hands up here, who is a selling principal? Handful of people. Okay, hands up here who works in a big franchise, under a franchise brand of some kind, or a big real estate brand. It could be a Melbourne one, thanks. Yeah, cool, okay. So you're gonna see huge disruption in this space, because what we're seeing is that as we become, like we want to, people are, and the improvement of moving to individuals, what we're seeing is that it's not about what you can do for the brand, it's about what the brand can do for you to support and enable you as an agent. So, institutions are letting us down, brands are not kind of cutting it, we're moving towards individuals, we're seeing a whole lot of new stuff coming through in the franchise space that is about empowering you guys and giving you the technology to make your life easier. And if you compare that to how our franchises here brand themselves, well, we heard from Val about how it's about the language that we're using and about old school versus then versus now from at the beginning. We're seeing that in our franchise groups too, that it's actually getting quite aggressive. So while you worry about real estate getting disrupted, certainly the franchise industry is also getting disrupted. And we're moving to the second trend, which is property as a service. Now, what we see in property as a service is that this is, property is no longer a transaction, it's actually about an ongoing service. And so what we want to know is we need clients for life. We need to be able to attract, every time we sell a property, we turn that person into a buyer. What happens when you have a 2-legged stool? It falls over. In real estate, our business model is a 2-legged stool. We have commissions from sellers and we have property management commission. So what we need to be looking at as an industry is how do we create relationships for lives? How do we start being able to set structures in our business that will really support how we care for buyers as well, how we care for tenants and landlords as well, and how do we actually turn them into a subscription model? How can, if I buy a property, the second one is concierge service. If I am a landlord, which I am, and something happens in my property, which does, I ring someone, because I don't respond to email because I've got 20,000 texts for every time to get back to me, so I ring them. So if I ring my agent, or the agent calls me and says something's gone wrong in your property, I have a 2-second conversation which involves how big is it, how much is it going to cost you, fine, do it, don't. When I spend 1.3 million on a property and mortgage my children in order to pay for that, and then get worse, and then basically have to turn up to the office to get a set of plastic keys from a surly receptionist who doesn't want to deal with me, that's my service experience. So when I've bought that property, the next person that is going to sell through you is the person that just bought the property, right? I mean, it might take 8 years, it might take 10 years, whatever, but if they've had a really crappy buying experience through you, they're going to tell everyone that they just bought their property through you, not to use you because you're a douche. But they're also going to never ever consider you in 10 years' time when it comes to them to buy. So what we do inside real estate is we turn all of our leads or potential leads into non-leads because we don't treat them right, and then we go off and spend a whole lot of money on marketing to get more leads, which is another one of the silly things that we do. But concierge as a service, what could we do to look after our buyers after they're bought from us, to keep them with us for life? And I saw Maria and Manos Vindikakis here today too. They're working on a theory that, well, how could I offer a property management service to all of my buyers so that when they need maintenance done, they can call us or we can have an arrangement where they can actually get served in that way. How do we do that? Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, every time in my house something goes wrong, my husband and I have to rock, scissors, paper to work out whose job it is to stay home for the 4 hours, to be there for the tradie who doesn't turn up, who doesn't give a quote if he does. That's enormously stressful. Real estate agents have this ability to create business off off those stress points and those opaque points in property. And new revenue. So what can we do to get away from this patchy revenue of sales commissions and property management commissions, what can we do if we automate our businesses? How do we actually make them, how can we get more money out of those new models that we could introduce, business models? Or what could we do if I'm an agent? What do I want my commission split to be? If I'm a principal, how do I want to look after my people who are out there selling the property, looking after the buyers, bringing the revenue in, bringing the leads in? How am I going to take care of them if I'm getting money from connecting up services? We do all these things in property management. How could we extend them over and monetize them in the property buying space? And the third trend is about being an AI-enabled agent. So here's what AI can do for you. And if you don't want to use AI, if it feels too scary, because AI is machines that learn as they go, then at least look at automation. They respond to inquiries. So you're asking everyone to fill in the form on realestate.com. It gets straight back to them. It tells them what time the open for inspection is. It reminds them what the price is. Please, for the love of God, stop putting contact agent for the price, because it just turns so many people off. Matches the inquiries to your CRM and data. So the inquiry comes in, it says, okay, here's John Smith. Do we know John Smith? Have we ever met John Smith before? We have. We sold a property for him 8 years ago. Okay. And it puts a little mark against that name and says, we have a more important reason to contact John Smith now. It starts to prioritise. It prioritises those leads based on the propensity. How well do you know them? Did you know them in the past? Have we ever done business with them before? And then it starts to automate the repetitive tasks. So filling in the paperwork, dragging the information from the CRM across into the forms and contracts. It will free you up for creative problem solving if you can bring yourself to let it go and start to manage by exception, not by needing to do everything yourself. And that will free you up for relationship building. And then you can start to monetize those relationships because you're in a trusted space with people. Now, if you don't want to, if you still want to do some of that, and you just want to automate it, you don't want to AI it, then there are some great apps, and half of them were built here in Melbourne. Real-time agent, save you 76 hours a year. Another one, Reso, R-E-S-O, based out of Adelaide. You fill in the form for a property once, and then you've got it in your mobile phone that you can share it with any buyer that comes along, and you can start to see how interested they are. Another one, Market Buy, out of Victoria, allows you to manage bids. So that you can actually be sitting, you can be at your son's soccer game, AFL game, sorry, where am I? You can be at the sidelines of AFL, watching them train or picking them up from school, and you can be actually closing deals without it being a major stress because you can't get hold of Mary back at the office. But we need to build up some muscle because change is hard and change is a skill set. And as an industry, we're not great at introducing change into our businesses. So what we need to do is we need to make the time to change. We need to give it to someone to say, okay, this is your job. You're actually going to manage these projects inside the business. When you're going so hard doing business the way you've always done it, it is hard to try and take your mind off to actually work out how do we set this up? What are the processes that we've got? We need to also be able to differentiate between something that doesn't work yet and it being a complete failure. We tend to write technology off too quickly because we haven't run a good program to test how it will work. So don't run new technology out over every single client in your database from day one. Isolate it. Choose 20 clients that you've been working with for a while or that you've worked with before that you quite like. Tell them what you're about to do. Ask them what the experience is going to be like and see what that's like. Micromanage it for the first couple of times that you do it until it actually becomes easy. Small experiments, fix, learn, repeat, then scale. Because here's what we know, that property is actually about relationships. It's not about transactions. And the people with the most relationships win. But what we're also seeing in property is this obsession with our mobile phones, which is turning us into bottlenecks. Our insistence that we make things phone calls means that everything has to run through us. It's not using the tech to its best advantage. And it means it's making us extraordinarily busy so that all we do is actually just stay busy. We keep on that hamster wheel. What we need to do is to use the tech to really scale our relationships rather than using it as a bottleneck and turning us into a bottleneck to try and do more. Because remember, we're under enormous stress and we need to take some of that pressure off. A lot of the stress that we're under is not about us failing as individuals. It's about the structures and processes behind us not helping us to deliver and be the best that we can be. So the biggest challenge of tech? Well, it's actually about our leadership and our imagination. What do we want amazing property experiences to look like? What's our big vision? How should a client deal with you as in sales? What would an amazing selling experience look like? What would an amazing buying experience look like? What are the resources that you'd need? What's the technology you can introduce? How far are you away from that experience right now? And be really honest about that. We need to make real estate amazing. We need to make real estate about personal relationships again. People are transacting in real estate at times when they are in enormous emotional places because they've just moved in with a girlfriend, they've just got married, they've just had a baby, they've just had baby number 3, they have just got divorced, someone's passed away. These are all big personal things that happen to us, and as a result of that, a transaction needs to happen. But the transaction isn't the focus, it's the people that are. So we need to start making people feel really great about being home and about their homes or about their properties. And that's me. Thank you.